Fashion is more than just fabric. It's a powerful reflection of human culture and identity. Clothing has evolved alongside us, revealing shifts in power, economy, and technology throughout history. Today, we'll travel through time, from ancient civilizations to the fashion-forward 21st century, exploring how fashion trends changed and why they matter. Ancient civilizations. Ancient Egypt. In ancient Egypt, clothing wasn't just functional, it was deeply symbolic. Linen, woven from flax, was the most common fabric due to its breathability in the desert climate. The elite wore fine linen, while commoners donned coarser fabrics. Jewelry, wigs, and cosmetics completed their look, with each piece indicating the wearer's status. Pharaohs and high-ranking officials often adorned themselves with gold jewelry as symbols of their divine status. Ancient Greece and Rome. The flowing garments of ancient Greece, like the chiton, were simple yet elegant, with an emphasis on drapery. These clothes reflected the Greek philosophy of harmony and balance. The Romans, influenced by the Greeks, introduced the toga, a status symbol for Roman citizens. While Roman clothing was practical, it also signified power and position in society. Ancient China and India. In ancient China, silk was the fabric of choice, reserved initially for royalty but later accessible to the wealthy. Chinese fashion emphasized modesty, with layered robes embroidered with nature-inspired patterns. In India, garments like the sari have ancient origins. These garments often featured cotton, which was widely cultivated and traded. Fashion in these regions was closely tied to religious and cultural values. The Middle Ages and Renaissance. Medieval Europe. Medieval fashion was largely influenced by the feudal system. Nobles and royalty wore intricate, expensive fabrics like velvet and fur, while peasants dressed in simpler, more functional woolen clothes. By the late Middle Ages, clothing became more tailored, with a focus on fit. This period also saw the rise of accessories like elaborate headdresses and hats. Renaissance fashion. The Renaissance brought a revival of art and culture, and this reflected in fashion as well. Luxurious fabrics like silk and velvet were popular among the wealthy, and intricate embroidery became a status symbol. Corsetry began to shape the female silhouette, and clothing became an expression of power, particularly in royal courts. Fashion in the Islamic world. Islamic fashion during the medieval period was known for its flowing robes and use of luxurious textiles like brocade and silk. Clothing was often modest, with intricate patterns inspired by geometry and nature. Islamic trade also played a significant role in the diffusion of fabrics and dyes to Europe. The Age of Enlightenment to the Industrial Revolution. 18th century Europe, Baroque and Rococo. The 18th century saw fashion as a way to demonstrate one's status. The Baroque and Rococo periods were all about excess, powdered wigs, extravagant dresses, and tight corsets. Paris emerged as the center of fashion, with wealthy elites setting trends. Fashion mirrored the opulence and indulgence of the aristocracy before the French Revolution shifted the tides. French Revolution and simplification. The French Revolution brought a shift in fashion towards simplicity. The extravagant styles of the aristocracy gave way to neoclassical influences. Women began wearing dresses with high, empire waistlines inspired by the ancient Greeks, marking a stark contrast to the restrictive fashions of the past. Industrial Revolution. The Industrial Revolution transformed the fashion industry with the introduction of mass production and synthetic dyes. Textiles became cheaper and more accessible, and fashion began to shift from an elite luxury to a more democratic form of expression. Victorian fashion, with its structured silhouettes, crinolines, and corsets, defined this era. Early 20th to mid-20th century. 1920s. The Jazz Age. The 1920s were a time of liberation, especially for women's fashion. Flapper dresses with dropped waistlines, shorter hemlines, and Art Deco designs became all the rage. Coco Chanel revolutionized fashion by popularizing the little black dress, focusing on simplicity and elegance. 1930s to 1940s. War and simplicity. The 1930s and 40s were defined by austerity due to the Great Depression and World War II. Fashion became more practical, with simple designs using fewer materials. However, after the war, fashion roared back to life with Dior's new look, featuring full skirts and cinched waists, celebrating femininity. 1950s to 1960s. post-war prosperity and rebellion. The 1950s were defined by ultra-feminine styles, with cinched waists and full skirts, a contrast to the wartime years. The 1960s brought rebellion, with mod fashion, bold colors, and the rise of miniskirts. Youth culture began to set trends, influenced by figures like Twiggy. Counterculture and the 70s. The 1970s were defined by counterculture. Hippies rejected traditional norms, embracing natural fabrics, bell-bottoms, and fringe. Fashion became a form of protest, reflecting the social and political upheaval of the time. Fashion from the 1980s to today. 1980s. Power dressing. The 1980s saw a return to excess, with bold power suits, oversized shoulders, and bright neon colors. Designers like Versace and Armani dominated the fashion scene. Pop icons like Madonna became fashion trendsetters, with their bold and rebellious styles. 1990s. Minimalism and grunge. The 1990s embraced minimalism, led by designers like Calvin Klein, but it also saw the rise of grunge fashion, influenced by alternative music. Flannel shirts, ripped jeans, and casual streetwear became the uniform of the rebellious youth. 2000s to today. Fashion in the 2000s became more fast-paced than ever, with the rise of fast fashion brands making trendy clothing accessible. Social media influencers and digital technology have reshaped how fashion is consumed. Today, the industry is also increasingly aware of sustainability, with a shift towards eco-friendly materials and practices. Fashion has always been a reflection of society's values, technology, and culture. As we move into the future, sustainability and technology will likely be the driving forces behind new trends. Fashion continues to evolve, mirroring who we are and where we're going. Thank you for joining us today on this journey through the fascinating history of fashion. Remember, fashion isn't just about clothing. It's a reflection of who we are, the stories we tell, and how we see the world. If you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share. Until next time, stay curious.